All right, friends, welcome everyone to yet another webinar from SQL Maestros. Today's content is query tuning tools. Hope you're all good there. The audio, the video, and the screen. We are all set. In case you're not able to hear me, or you cannot see me, or you cannot see the screen, please check your connections, firewall, whatever, and you may want to join back again. Maybe you may want to use another Wi-Fi network or mobile network or whatever, basic troubleshooting, or else I hope everything is all good. Okay, so let's get started with some basic questions that I answer before every webinar, which is first questions, where are all the recordings, right? So you are someone who wants to access the recordings. So is this webinar recorded? Yes, this webinar is going to be recorded and it will be put up on sqlmaestros.com along with all other recorded webinars. So the link is there in the chat window. I'll give you a few links in the chat window. So make sure you put them somewhere. You may want to bookmark them. That will be the best thing to do. Or just put up in your OneNote or whatever you use, wherever you are taking notes, you may want to put up these links. And of course, sqlmaestros.com is the place where you should go and you will have access to everything, including webinars, premium membership, all in one bundle, and the most recent and the latest SQL Server performance tuning masterclass recordings. I just gave that. Let me give that to you once more. Okay, here you go. In case you want to dive deep into SQL Server performance tuning. So this one will also be recorded and we will put this up on the recorded section. The other question, yes, during the webinar, if you have questions, please use the Q&A panel. Please ask questions there. Avoid using the chat window. Chat window could be a place where I can share some links and other messages. All right, friends, we are good to go. Let's get started. SQL Server query tuning tools. We talk a lot about SQL Server performance tuning and query tuning all the time. And sometimes it is important to go back and look at a few basic things. You know, if you don't have the right tools at your disposal, you will be kind of helpless as to how do you troubleshoot a performance issue? How do you diagnose it? I mean, fixing comes later, but first thing is identifying what is the root cause of a performance issue. And in SQL Server, when you have so many different tools available, it is important that you use the right tool at the right time. Now, generally speaking, let's say you have basic commands like set statistics, IO and time, you have execution plan, you have the properties window of the execution plan, you have the XML version of the execution plan, and the execution plan itself is available to you, let's say in text, graphical, and XML version. You have tools like extended events, query store, and of course, the most important weapon in your armory is the dynamic management views. So there are so many tools available. And of course, perfmon counters, performance monitor counters, hundreds of them. So many different tools are available. So when you have a performance issue, it is important that you pick the right tool at the right time and you look at the metrics or you're already recording it, etc., etc. So if you see, it's an ocean out there. So the idea of this webinar, the objective of this session is to give you a very quick overview of the tools that are available. I'm not sure if we will have enough time for me to kind of tell you about each and every tool available. And the idea here is just not to tell you that, okay, here are the 10 tools available. What I'm trying to do is talk about a tool and quickly show you a demo as to how to use it, because I think how to use it will be more important and more helpful rather than just calling out the name of the tool. Okay, friends, so let's get started. And as I said, we have many tools available. So if I'm sure I won't be able to cover all the tools in just one session. So let's see if this is good. And if I get good feedback from you about this session, maybe we will do a part 2, but it all depends how this session goes and what feedback we get from you. Are you all ready to begin? Are you attentive? Shall we get started? Yay. the virtual world. I can't see you, I can't hear you, but I'm just making assumptions that all of you are out there, attentive. Yes, let's get started. Okay, this is for you might be a seasoned SQL Server professional, which I totally appreciate. So this is going to be a good reminder and a good recap of what's available and how to use them. And this will be super helpful to you if you have just got started with SQL Server, or you might be working with SQL Server for some time, but query tuning and performance tuning is a new area for you where you are getting started. So this session and this content is going to be very helpful. So I'm just talking about the target audience here. Okay, let's get started. The real first thing that comes to my mind is this statement for your specific session: set statistics, IO, and time. Super helpful. I mean, the most basic thing we do when we're doing query tuning is, of course, you want to know the execution time of the query, the elapsed time, how much time the query has taken for its total execution. That will come from time, and the IO, which is the input output, which is how many reads has the query done. So this is very helpful, and this is from the perspective of elapsed time. And another time factor, which is the CPU time, how much time, how much cycles has your query taken on the CPU, which is the amount of time the threads have spent on the CPU. Let's quickly have a look. So we are going to use AdventureWorks 2016 here. First, let's look at set statistics time on. So if I'm going to turn this on, this is only for your session, for this SPID 52, what you see here, right? Okay, and you will see the output in the messages tab here. Okay, here is a very simple select statement. So let's say first name, etc., and we have some predicate here. No worries, the query itself is not important here. Let's go and execute this. Now, let's say the execution of the query was slow. Let's just make some assumptions. Jump back to the messages tab. In the messages tab, you can see that the elapsed time is 230 milliseconds and the CPU time is 204 milliseconds here. We got to take this on face value. Let's say these are the numbers. Now, the first things first, what is the CPU time and what is the elapsed time? CPU time is the amount of time one or more threads have spent on CPU while executing the query. And elapsed time is the total time the query has taken for its execution, for the completion of the execution, from the point you fired the query till the time the last byte was rendered on the client. That is your elapsed time. So from an execution perspective, you look at this number, 230 milliseconds, but we are not ignoring CPU time. You're also looking at CPU time because this is CPU consumption. Very, very important when you have a SQL Server environment where you have high CPU usage and you want to find out how much CPU time your queries have taken. One big misconception that comes across a lot of time is that elapsed time is always going to be higher than CPU time, because elapsed time does include the CPU time. That is a misconception. As I said, elapsed time is the amount of time this query has taken for its execution from start to finish. That's as simple as that. It has nothing to do really with the CPU time. What is CPU time, and can this number go higher than the elapsed time? On the face of it, looks like no, CPU time will not go more than elapsed time. Why? Because whatever time it takes on CPU will be included here in elapsed time also. But yes, this can go more than elapsed time when you have multi-threaded execution. Right now, the simple query had just one thread and each thread took about 200 milliseconds. I'm just making it up. Let's say if you had 4 threads executing this query in parallel and each of them took 200 milliseconds on the CPU, then this would have been 800 milliseconds and elapsed time would still remain the same. So yeah, in a parallel execution, remember that CPU time can go more than elapsed time. So don't get confused with that. Okay, now why is this important? When you are tuning query, you are recording this number. You're recording a lot of other metrics, but I mean, we are talking about time right now. So let's just focus on time. So I record CPU time and elapsed time. Now, let's say all of us are here. We're looking at this query and we see that, okay, this query is expensive. Let's say it's taking a lot of CPU time. We go and figure out, okay, maybe this query is doing some kind of conversion. I know this because I know I've taken this example before and I am going to fix it. So I'm going to fix it and test again. So what I've done, I have removed implicit conversion here, which is I'm ensuring that I have a varchar on both sides. Let's go and execute this. And this is why CPU time and elapsed time is so helpful. So let's go and execute this. Let's jump over to the messages tab. Now you will see that elapsed time has reduced to 7 milliseconds and CPU time is negligible, 0 milliseconds. The query executed much faster because it didn't have to do implicit conversion. So first things first, recording the elapsed time and CPU time is super critical when you are tuning queries, because the first indication that a query needs performance tuning, a query needs to be tuned, is the elapsed time. Imagine a business user running something from a client, like a report or something, a stored procedure, whatever, and it takes time for the response to come. So the first indication is the query is running slow, the report is running slow, application is slow, 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 slow. This is what we keep hearing. So this is the first metrics that gets recorded, that comes to mind, that is easily visible, right? Something that is slow is easily visible. Business users expect response and output in a jiffy. They want things to just quickly come up on the screen, and anything that takes more than a few seconds is a becomes a what do you call, a target, right? Something to be tuned, and a support ticket gets raised. Okay, let's move forward. Now we will see set statistics IO on. Okay, input output. So this is really all about read and write. So I am looking at a query here, select star from person.person, where first name is equal to Ken. So let's go and execute this. And I am pretty tempted to turn on the actual execution plan, but I'm not going to do that just as yet. Let's go and execute. Okay, sorry, let's go and first turn this on. Set statistics IO on, just like what we did with time, we'll turn the IO on. Now in the messages tab, you are going to get IO metrics. Let's go and execute this. Jump over to the messages tab, and what you will see, table person scan count 1, logical reads 179. Now again, let's make assumptions. This query is running slow. Slow means, of course, first you're falling back on time, right? Elapsed time. Okay, so this is running slow. You are looking at a lot of things to be fixed. One of the things that you see, okay, how much IO is happening? You see 179. Now, from this message itself, this message gets printed in the messages tab because you have turned on set statistics IO. Now, the moment you see this message, you see, okay, table person there, scan count 1, which means some kind of scan is happening, right? It could be a table scan, it could be a clustered index scan. So all of you know how you can verify that, right? So I'm going to turn on the actual execution plan. Let's go and execute this. Jump over to the execution plan, and you will see, yes, indeed, there is a scan. This was a index scan that is happening. Now, if I just zoom in a bit here, we have a index scan happening, and the index that is being used is ix person last name underscore first name. So looks like there is an index, and this is a multi-column index on last name and first name. But SQL Server is not seeking on this index. It is scanning. Now, when it comes to IO, you know that the moment optimizer is scanning something, it's going to touch all the pages that is part of the storage structure. So if you have a table scan, it's scanning all the data pages of the table. If it is a index scan, it is scanning all the pages of the index, which is the index pages. So of course, when you scan all the pages, either way, it's going to be a big number in comparison to seeking, because seeking means traversing the B-tree structure of the index. So you're traversing from root to intermediate to leaf level. So what we see here is, what we see here is, even though we have a index on first name is part of this index, SQL Server is not seeking, rather it is scanning. And surprisingly, SQL Server is recommending you to create a hint. So you have a missing index hint here also. And this missing index hint is being recommended on which column? First name. If you are new to SQL Server, and if you are tuning for the first time, if you're just learning to tune queries and you're kind of new to all of this, this is going to be very, very baffling. It requires a lot of experience to understand what's going on behind the scene. You have an index, but SQL Server is not seeking on that index. Even though you have an index on first name, SQL Server is still recommending an index, which is the missing index hint. SQL Server is going mad here. SQL Server does not know what to recommend and what to do. You have first name, the index on first name, but first name is not the first column. It is the second column in the index. Last name is the first column. If you see here, all that is a bit convoluted. So instead of diving super deep into all of that, which is a query tuning topic, let's just focus on the IO factor. So here, what I can do is I can just go and follow the recommendation. So I can create an index on first name. Let's go and do this. And did you notice that we had logical reads 179? So let's go and create the index that SQL Server recommended here. In real world, we will probably not be doing this, but then this is not the session where I'm going to talk about query tuning. I know you are very tempted to know all of that stuff, but not today. So let's go and create this index that SQL Server is recommending. So let's do this. Done. And let's go and test the query again. And what you want to know is, did IO reduce? So let's go and execute this. Jump over to the messages tab. And now you will see logical reads from 170 something has come down to 20. That's all. Do we verify that has scan been converted to seek? Is the new index being used? Most likely so. So let's just go and execute this once more and check what's happening. Yeah. So we have our index, the one that we created, being used. All right. So this is what we did with statistics time and statistics IO. All right. Let's move forward. Now, tool number 2, missing index hint. You just saw that above, right? So I'm not going to repeat that again, but that is also a tool. Now, in SQL Server community and SQL Server professionals and people who are very experienced with SQL Server will tell you a lot of stories about missing index hints, that they're bad and you should just ignore them. And sometimes they're not right. Sometimes SQL Server is very weird and just does not know what is being recommended and what not. I have a slightly different take. Not that I do not agree with them, but my point here is any hint that comes from SQL Server and on this management studio in the execution plan that you see this missing index hint. By the way, this data is coming from dynamic management views. We'll talk about that a bit later. Do not ignore this hint. The hint that you get, do not ignore it. It is a hint given to you. It is totally up to you to ignore it or to just kind of look at it and see if it is making sense. I can bet you it does make sense. It makes sense in some areas. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. And it is totally up to your discretion, and you got to be wise here. Just don't close your eyes and ignore it. Look at it, evaluate it, see if it is making sense. What is SQL Server trying to tell you? If it is making sense, good, go ahead, explore it. If you think no, you're good enough, you're experienced, you know what you have and what you're doing, and this is not important to you, you can ignore it. That is how I'm going to take the missing index hint. All right. Let's go and look into the third one, execution plan now. So statistics time, statistics IO, missing index hint. The third tool is execution plan. Very important. I think without the execution plan, probably we're not tuning queries. We always look at execution plan. We have two kinds of execution plan here, the actual execution plan and the estimated execution plan. Now, The actual execution plan is actually the same as estimated execution plan. In case you didn't know that, it's the same as estimated execution plan, but with runtime statistics, the actual runtime statistics. That's why you call it as an actual execution plan. Many folks think that actual execution plan may be or could be, will be different from estimated execution plan. No, the optimizer can give you the estimated execution plan, but when you run the query and you look at the actual execution plan, it's the same plan with actual runtime statistics. That's the first thing. The second thing is the properties window. I'm going to call this out separately because we tend to ignore it. In many recent versions of SQL Server, properties window has really been loaded with a lot of information, which is super helpful. So yeah, because it's not very easy to pack so many things into the execution plan and in that tooltip, which is not very intuitive when you look at information. So properties window does give you a lot of information, so don't ignore that. And of course, you take it one step further, you have the XML version of the plan. There are still certain things that are not available in the graphical version of the plan or the text-based version of the plan. So XML comes really handy. Okay, let's give it a try now. So we are going to take this query. Let's turn on the actual. Okay, first let's see the estimated execution plan. For the estimated execution plan, you will see there is an icon here. No, sorry, this is the one, estimated execution plan. Display estimated, Control L. So what you can do is select the query and click on display estimated execution plan. SQL Server will instantly show you the estimated execution plan. Why do you really want to look at the estimated execution plan when you can actually run the query and just straight away look into the actual execution plan? The estimated execution plan comes very handy. It comes very handy when your query is a very long running query and you want to look at the plan without really running the query. Your query could just take 10 minutes to run. So just by your need is to just look at the execution plan. So you don't want to really wait that long to look at the execution plan. So you can quickly get a glimpse of, okay, this is what the optimizer thinks. This is how it's going to run. But then this plan is missing all the runtime statistics simply because you haven't run the query. But you know, okay, this is how it's going to run. It's going to run in parallel. There will be a scan and there will be a sort and whatnot. That is the estimated execution plan. Let's go and run this query now. But yeah, let me show you that it does not have actual runtime statistics. So you can see it has all estimations. It does not have actual number of rows. It has estimated number of rows, and it does not have how the number of seconds here, etc., etc. So let's go and now run the query. Actual execution plan is turned on. So just let's wait for a few seconds. If you want to watch the remainder part of the webinar and all the remaining demos, you can subscribe to the webinar on SQLmaestros.com and get lifetime access to the recorded webinar. All you have to do is just go to SQLmaestros.com, click on the recorded webinar section and get access to all the webinar recordings. There are many of them. Some of these webinars are free and some of them are very nominally priced. So the ones that you're interested in, you can subscribe to them and get lifetime access. Now, because there are so many webinars, subscribing to each webinar might be a bit cumbersome. So we have another option, which is SQL Maestros membership. So the first link on SQL Maestros says join. If you click on that, it will bring you to SQL Maestros membership. Things are very simple. There are two membership levels. The first level is free, where you get access to all the free webinars and all our tutorials and demos, more than 200, 300 demos and tutorials. All you have to do is just become a free member. You're paying nothing and you get access to all of them. So you don't have to go and subscribe to each webinar individually. Just become a free member and then explore the free video lobby. So if you go to the video lobby here, there is something called as free content where you get access to all of that. But then all of us are interested in advanced content, isn't it? And that is where premium membership comes into play. So the webinars that are paid, and there are many advanced tutorials and demos. If you want access to all of them, you can become a premium member and pay a nominal price, which is annual membership. Once you do that, you can explore the premium video lobby. If you go to the premium video lobby from here, or just go to the video lobby and click on premium content, you can see all the paid webinars and all the advanced tutorials and demos, and get access to all of them with your annual membership. Anyway, choice is yours. There's a lot of content on SQLmaestros.com, and you can also explore the YouTube membership level as well. So you have free content on YouTube channel, and you can also join and become a member of SQL Maestros on YouTube, where you can pay a monthly fee, get access to all the paid webinars and advanced content. So in summary, you can go to SQLmaestros.com and become a member, or you can become a member on YouTube also. Becoming a member on SQLmaestros.com turns out to be a little cost effective with the annual membership in comparison to YouTube monthly membership. But anyway, choice is yours, whichever platform you wish to use. Happy SQL.